Hamas says at least 30 people have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza overnight. Israel carried out the strikes in response to what it says are violations of the US brokered ceasefire. Israel's defence minister said a soldier was killed in an attack in southern Gaza yesterday, and that the strikes are because Hamas breached the agreed terms of returning hostage bodies. The family of one deceased hostage said they were shown a video of Hamas digging a hole and burying their son, then calling the Red Cross to witness the retrieval. The International Committee of the Red Cross condemned what it called the fake recovery. David Mencer is the spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister, and he joins us. Good morning.
Good to be with you, Kate.
Thank you for joining us. We should talk about the strikes overnight. What sparked those latest strikes on Gaza?
As your news report made clear, Hamas have unfortunately lied, cheated President Trump. They cheated the American people, and they cheated Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well, because there was an agreement. Israel adhered to the agreement. Israel pulled back. Israel instituted a ceasefire. Israel did everything required of it in that agreement. But unfortunately, Hamas, the very first line of this agreement is that they should have returned all of our hostages. To date, there are still 13 hostages. Israel knows that Hamas knows precisely where they are. They played a grotesque game yesterday, torturing the families of these murdered hostages. They, as you said, they did some sort of subterfuge where they had a body, they had parts of a body. Unfortunately, it's not a whole body. They had parts of a body, which they created a hole in the ground, and our drones caught them carrying the remains of this poor 27-year-old man. They put him in that hole in the ground, and then they called over the Red Cross to say, "Hi, we found the remains of another hostage."
Yeah. Do you know what? I mean, first off, do you know what happened there? Is there any reason, or have you been given any reason or any explanation for what? And I've watched the footage, and many people have. The Red Cross have condemned what they say is a fake recovery. Has Hamas given any explanation for what happened in that footage?
Kate, Hamas, the jihadis. Sometimes I don't think that you guys in the UK quite understand what that means. That means that the normal civilized way of life between human beings doesn't quite apply to them. Hamas believe that Jewish people are the descendants of pigs and monkeys. That's me. I'm sure there's maybe some Jewish people working in your office where you are. They're jihadis. They adore death. That's their aspiration. So when you ask me to try to get into the head of Hamas terrorists who signed an agreement to end this war, meaning, and the first line of that agreement is all of our hostages should come home. 13 of them haven't come home. I can't possibly jump into their head. They're Islamist jihadis, and I must say that they have far too much understanding in the Western media. I understand why you want to try to understand what they're thinking.
Well, I suppose the question is posed because you obviously had a drone operating in the area at the time. I mean, there has been reports that Israel is aware of the location of 9, I think, out of the 13 deceased hostages still held in Gaza. Was Israel aware that there was a body to be recovered in that area? Was that why you were monitoring it?
Yes, precisely that. We're monitoring it because we know that Hamas can't be trusted. There is an agreement. They've cheated on the agreement. They killed one of our soldiers yesterday with a sniper fire. The soldier was inside behind the yellow line, as per the agreement. And that soldier was killed. He's a 37-year-old young man. His funeral will be today. Israelis have had it up to here. We've had it with this Hamas organization. 2 years we've been battling them.
So is there a way, David Mencer, is there a way, given that you've confirmed that reporting, which was from the Times of Israel, that Israel does know the location of the deceased hostages still held in Gaza, is there a way to assist in the retrieval now of those remains? Given what you have seen in that drone footage, is there a way around this problem?
Let me correct you, Kate. Israel knows that Hamas knows where our hostages are buried. That is the slight finesse in your answer.
But how would Israel know if you didn't know where they were? Do you see my question?
Yeah, Israel knows that Hamas knows where they are. Look, you have to understand that for Hamas, these are valuable commodities. They are their prize. That's why they took them as hostage.
No, I understand that, but
They're
I'm
worth
asking you
less
a different question. I'm saying if you know where the hostages are, and the Times of Israel's reporting, and I'll quote their headline: Israel is reported to know the location of 9 out of 13 deceased hostages still held in Gaza. Is there
that is
is that
that is incorrect.
accurate? So that's not accurate. So
No,
you don't know
that's
where these are.
incorrect.
So when I
Israel
asked you if
knows that Hamas knows where
okay,
these
and
people are buried. There are 13 of our people.
Hamas says they don't know, and they say partly
Yeah,
they don't know because of the level of destruction in Gaza. It's very
yeah.
difficult to retrieve. My question is slightly different, which is that is there another way? Is there any other way that you can think of that might help alleviate this problem to retrieve some of those bodies?
Yes, the way is for Hamas to be human beings and to stop torturing the families of these 13 people and to allow them to have closure. A magnificent thing happened 15 days ago. We reached a ceasefire. 20 of our living hostages came home. The feeling of jubilation in this country was overwhelming, but there are 13 families today that are still waiting. What we're asking for is that, you ask, how can this situation be alleviated? It is to ask Hamas, who agreed to this agreement for the ceasefire, for the end of the war, to be human beings and to return these dead people to their families.
Okay.
I was in a meeting with these families and President Trump, and they said to President Trump, President Trump, don't think that this is any less important than a live hostage. That it's not a life and death situation. It is, because it's a life and death situation for the mums and the dads and the brothers and the sisters of these hostages.
And everybody listening will understand that. Yes.
Right. When they're buried,
yes,
the families get closure. And what Hamas did yesterday was they played an appalling trick. This family now will have to dig up their son for the third time.
Yes.
Right. David, imagine how appalling that is.
We are running out of time. I have to ask you, the UN's relief chief has compared the ruins in Gaza to those in Hiroshima, Dresden and Stalingrad. What do you make of that comparison?
Well, I think it's incorrect, obviously. The UN, unfortunately, haven't played a positive role in this war. We wish they would. We wish they would do their job and act like a humanitarian organizations. Unfortunately, many times they have been infiltrated by the terrorist organization. It's incorrect. And firstly, it's incorrect because those examples which the UN give were when Americans dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing close to 100,000 people each time. What you're seeing, the result of the devastation, and journalists will be going into those areas pretty soon. What you're seeing is buildings which were booby-trapped by Hamas to kill our soldiers, buildings that have virtually no foundations because there are 400 miles of tunnels underneath those buildings. So every time there is any sort of action, the buildings instantly.
And as you
collapse.
say, journalists will be able to see that for themselves, and hopefully pretty quickly. That's definitely been an international call for quite some time now. David Mencer, we have run out of time. I appreciate you joining us on the programme this morning.
Thank you, Kate. Good to be with you.
David Mencer, the spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister.